Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Learn with Jason. Today on the show, we've got Party Corgi, longtime friend, back from the Gatsby days, Benjamin Lannon
Yep,
here. How you doing, man?
been good.
Good, good. So for those of us who aren't familiar with your work, do you want to give us a little bit of a background?
Yep. So my name is Benjamin Lannon. I am a developer, web developer up in upstate New York. I've really been all over the place. I've done a lot of stuff with Gatsby. I've done stuff with VS Code. I've really been digging into GitHub Actions. Really, just a lot of places around just the open source in general.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And I've seen you across a whole bunch of open source libraries. And so, like, what kind of stuff? Like, what are you most excited about right now? What are you having the most
Mhm.
fun with?
Yeah. So I think the thing I kind of think about over the what like kind of the past year or so is like a thing I really am interested in is kind of being able to take like generate data sets and kind of get insights into them.
Mm,
So whether it be like one example was I want to take a insight into how VS Code they have thousands of issues open on the VS Code repository. And a couple months, I think it was November 2018. They said, "Hey, this month we're going to really focus in on like trying to go through them, resolve things." And I was
mm.
like, "I want to see how that actually goes." And I set up a very simple automation where I think once an hour I take a snapshot of how many issues are open, and I did that over the course of the month, and actually
Hmm.
saw that and then visualized that and saw that the data set actually went down very quickly.
Yeah,
Like it actually
I
did.
remember
Fairly.
this. Like
Yeah.
this was cool. This was a project they ended up including it in their change logs, I think, for like a major
Yep.
release. Um, but that's really cool. And I've seen you do this a couple places where you're kind of pulling data and finding ways to make that data, um, I guess, human interpretable. Like I feel like it's really
Yeah.
hard to analyze data in four-dimensional space. Like if we consider like through time, right? Because like we don't. I remember that there were more issues a while ago, but I don't remember how many. I don't remember like
Mhm.
the relative distances are really hard to track, especially over a long period of time. And so
Yep.
having those types of records and visualizations is so nice for being able to see like, oh, I really did make progress. Like that's I think that's why they tell you to journal or to write down your accomplishments is so that, when you get further along and you look back, you can go, "Oh, dang, I did do a lot," even though it won't feel like you did anything. Cool. Very cool. So you've been doing a lot of work with GitHub Actions. What got you into those?
So it was back when they first announced it. It like at first I didn't quite understand it. I was like, okay, is this just kind of some CI on GitHub? But then as I like kind of dug in and saw this is really across the board a way to really integrate applications into GitHub in a serverless manner
Hmm.
across the entire spectrum of what GitHub provides. So when you think about CI/CD, usually you think, okay, when I make a PR, I'm gonna maybe go run some tests on it. I can maybe do a preview deploy, and then when I merge that, I'll go actually deploy that change up to wherever it is, whether it's a website or some kind of service, like maybe a service function, those kinds of things. I'll go deploy it.
Mm-hmm.
And what really interests me is everything else in that spectrum because like what happens maybe if you want to watch for various issues like if someone like makes a comment in that issue you may want to do some stuff based on the comment you maybe I want to make sure that the common threads are being inclusive so I could maybe try to alert people if someone posts something that isn't really going by the terms of like
Mm-hmm.
against is going against the code of conduct. Maybe I want to do something when people star the issue, when someone forks a repo. Uh, really, the entire spectrum for GitHub as a platform, rather than just this very small uh, subset that is CI/CD.
Yeah, that's, I mean, I feel like this is an interesting space that we're starting to see get explored in a few different places, right?
Mhm.
Where it's no longer just you use CI/CD to, as you said, build the site and run some tests. You can now do like really interesting stuff, you know, and GitHub Actions are in that space. I've seen like the Netlify build plugins are kind of introducing a similar pattern where you have a lot of flexibility there. And I'm seeing it in other companies as well, where you get this kind of like extension. What if your CI/CD was more than that? What if it was like a deep integration layer? And I really think that's exciting.
Definitely.
And so we're going to play with some of that today, but like what are some things that you've actually seen, like some projects that you've seen used in GitHub Actions that you're or built that you're really excited about?
So some fun things, like some very fun things I've done. One of them, like as I was commenting earlier, of how I was making those visualizations. Those I do all the processing of every single time something happens. I trigger those things and save the data points up to a. I'm saving like some of them. I'm saving to like DynamoDB or Firebase, like just some kind of serverless
Mm-hmm.
database. Other things include just funny thing, like one thing I had is whenever my website builds and I actually deploy it, as soon as it is successfully deployed up onto Netlify, I make my light bulb, like either light bulb behind my desk or the one right behind me, go green. Just, and if the build fails, it'll go red. So just like
Nice.
I think a thing I found I am finding interesting is like we went like back before I was born. Everyone did you did things with hardware, and then everything's become virtualized. It's now all done in software. But I'm thinking, what if we could take a step back and actually start throwing things back into the real world again?
Mm-hmm. That's something that I've really enjoyed watching lately. So I had Lucky Number 7 was on the show, and we were talking about Twitch overlays. But like one thing that he's done is he has an old like flapper display board, like you know those train station ones that would like roll over to show you whatever time it is. He has one of those hooked up to Twitch, and so in his office, like people can run a command and like show a thing. I don't know exactly how he's got it set up, but you can control that flapper board from the computer, which is really really fun. Or like Michael Jolly's got his Twitch controlled puppet, right?
Chris just put a comment. Where's yours, Jason? I think we need like behind you on your wall. I think you need to mount one of those and put like a corgi count.
Oh my God. That actually would be, you know what would be really fun actually, is we could extend the corgi stampede to like have some lights back here that would like flash when it's time. That actually sounds like a lot of fun. I should figure that would be fun. I should do that. Speaking of the corgi stampede, I figured out why it hasn't been working, everybody. It's because I muted it. So I unmuted it today. So bring on those corgis. I'm gonna regret saying that, aren't I?
Probably.
Cool. I feel like somebody needs to clip that. That needs to be a sound effect. Oh, dang. All right. Chris is giving out subs. Thank you so much, Chris.
Chris.
All of you who are now subbed, spam those corgis. You can make some noise. This is beautiful. So thank you so much for that. So Ben, what are we gonna do today? What do you want to build today?
So today, actually, it's something kind of based on something you've previously built. So you previously built a Netlify build plugin for being able to cache a Gatsby site.
It's back. In record time. Thank you, chat. Well done.
There you go. Because like when we think about deploying websites, when you do like a build on Gatsby or other of these kind of like static site generators, you have to build the site out into static files that you go deploy onto like CDN, like Netlify. With that, you usually these layers have like a cache in there where you can actually store stuff between builds to make sure that like if I build a second time, if I'm only changing a couple files, it shouldn't need to recompile like every single file every single time.
Mm-hmm.
So by default, GitHub Actions doesn't really do any of that caching, like doesn't store a session because they treat it as like an ephemeral environment of you spin stuff up, you do stuff on it, and then it spins down.
Mm-hmm.
But GitHub Actions has the team that built Actions actually made a action called that you can actually add this caching support into your workflow. So you can, if I build maybe a Gatsby site, the next time I build, it will have that caching layer implemented, so I can then hopefully get a shorter build time.
Nice. Okay, that sounds awesome. I'm ready to do that. So before we switch over and start coding, quick shout out to thank you Pristine One for the sub. That is very much appreciated. And a shout out to White Coat Captioning, who is doing live captioning of the show today. You can go to lwj.dev/live to see the live captions, and I'm going to write that down in the chat so that you can go look at them. I did break the Twitch embed, so I'm sorry for that, but the live captions work great. So, so thank you to White Coat Captioning for that, and those are made possible for us by the sponsors Netlify, Fauna, Sanity, and Auth0, who are generously putting money in to cover the cost of captioning, which makes this show more accessible for everybody. We appreciate that very much. So with that being said, let's jump over into pairing view and let's write some code.
So we would need to add code.
Indeed, we would.
Right?
We would.
So let's go. Definitely go follow Benjamin on Twitter. And where do you want to start? What should we do first?
So I think maybe a good idea would to let's go find like a repo that we can use to kind of really show like some of these benefits. So I think when I was reading through your build plugin, you had an example where you used one of your websites and it showed like very massive differences between a build without any cache and with a cache. So I know that site like is a very image heavy site.
Yes.
And if anyone's worked with Gatsby in the past, the way that Gatsby images are rendered, are kind of generated for you, is it takes the single image and it will create multiple various different sizes for you. So if you were loading up on a phone, you don't need to have like a 4 megabyte image compared to if you were loading it on like a 27-inch flat screen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So this is a monster site. Like we might honestly regret this because this is 200 plus images that are all huge. Kind of what I wanted to do was make Gatsby earn it, right? So Gatsby is going to process every image, but it has to load that image into memory. It's got to create all the different versions. And so this is 200 plus images at, I think, an average of like 4 megabytes per image. And each one of them gets turned into a page. So we're going to generate over 200 pages with lots and lots of image processing. This takes 5 minutes on my computer. So this will be, we'll have to do some stand-up comedy.
There you go. Yeah.
Was my top search Guy Fieri Chef's Kiss? What did I do?
Wait, what?
Oh yeah. Okay, let me show you why. Let me show you why that was my top search, because I got where is it? Where did you go? I'm gonna pull this over. This is this is the party corgi chat, and now we have this emoji. Look at that beautiful thing. That is an animated chef's kiss from Guy Fieri. I feel like that's worth the terrible search history. Okay.
There you go.
Okay, so back on track here. Let's dive in. We've got
Yep.
okay, so we've got a big ass repo. We're ready.
Yeah, so I'd say let's fork this over so we can just have like a space to work with.
Okay.
So
Can I fork my own code? I don't think I can, but what I can do.
Try going to learn with JSON. Can you do it in?
Oh yeah, I need to do that anyways.
Yeah.
All right, so we'll go to learn with Jason. All right. And then I'm going to get a terminal set up. Oh, yep. Look at that. Look how many images we're cloning right now.
There we go.
You're going to need a few of those this time.
Speaking about this noise, do you know about the Jeopardy NPX module?
Is it just NPX Jeopardy?
Yeah, so if you do NPX Jeopardy, well, I think let me go find this.
Hold on, let me make sure that my sound is piping through because I think I turned this off. All right, let me do it.
So if you do that and then put a command after it, so like maybe sleep 5. Play Jeopardy.
That's amazing. I feel like that is really funny. I probably shouldn't do that very often because I'll probably get a DMCA takedown. But yeah, that's a good command. I like that. So
okay, so the site should be local. So
yes, let me actually open it as well.
Yeah.
I'd opened in the wrong window. Over here, come on. All right.
Okay.
Oh crap! This is the wrong thing.
That's all fun.
What did we just call this? Image processing.
Yep.
There we go.
So while we're here, just to start something in the background, can we deploy this up to Netlify and just do a manual deploy? So rather than hook it up with the Git instance, just do a manual deploy of the site. Okay.
Yeah. So I will do that by, I don't even know if this one will build on Netlify. It's so big. So I'll go to app.netlify.com and then I'm just going to, when you say manual deploy, you mean just drop the folder in?
Well, yeah, we could do a build behind the scenes. So we could open up VS Code, do a yarn install, yarn build, and then drag the public folder in. Because we're going to be looking into using, we'll be looking into using the Netlify CLI to do our deploys. Because nice thing is, you could have it where we build up. We use the Netlify build system, but as well because Netlify has the CLI, we can actually do a deploy from any service, whether it be on a computer, whether it be another CLI provider, and those files we can still push everything up into Netlify. So if we still want to push our functions or sites, all that content, we can still use Netlify as our CDN.
Mm-hmm. Come on.
Yeah. So this may take a while. So I'm going to say, let's run the build, and then we're going to maybe just start working on the GitHub Actions workflow for this.
Yeah, probably a good call because I think once we see the images start here, it is just brutal. I am hammering on this computer to do this. The reason this is so slow, just to reiterate, I intentionally made this a just horribly inefficient site. I put the images are huge, and the queries make sure to generate every version of every image. So it is, yeah, you can see it's rolling backwards. The progress is going backwards. That's how big this site is. All right. So while we're doing that, I need to set up it's a new folder, right?
Yeah, so we're gonna create so actually if you click that new file, we can do this all in one swoop. So if we do .github /workflows with an S, and then let's call this build.yaml.
Build.yaml. Like that?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
This is where all of your GitHub Actions workflows are going to be. So when it comes to GitHub Actions, a workflow file is kind of one entire sequence of steps that you do based on some type of trigger, where an action is like one piece of that workflow.
Oh, did it just finish already? No, seg fault. Cool. Let's see what happens if I run it again. Maybe it's got some of the images. I think I'd probably just ran out of memory.
Yeah, we can still work through this. So to start out, we want to kind of define the environment. Well, like when we are going to run this.
Okay.
So, well, first of all, we can give it a name. So if you do name, so each of these things are going to be like a top level. So we can give it some string for our name.
Okay. We'll call this, and this is what gets displayed by GitHub Actions.
Yeah.
Okay. So we can call it like cache built assets or something. And I don't need these, do I?
No.
YAML.
So we have that. Then we want to have a on trigger. So we do on, and if we type in the word push,
YAML, JSON. On push.
So this is telling us
so we would need to add code. Is that right?
Is everything right?
We're never gonna get anything done. Okay, I'm sorry. So
on push is like whenever we push up to the repo, this will trigger.
Okay.
Now this will run on every single thing. So maybe if we do a branch, it will run everywhere. So we maybe want to define this down to be just on the master branch.
Okay.
So if you push enter right after on and like indent push, and then put a colon after it.
Like
we're
this.
We're gonna have a field under push called branches.
Like
and
that?
then and then we're gonna have a colon, and then it's gonna be an array with one item called master. Yep, like that. So this is now saying only build when you push to the master branch. So this is a common workflow that you probably do of like when a PR is pushed up, you don't want to build at like then. You don't want to deploy that. You want to just do it for your master branch.
The chat is discussing. I definitely screwed up that sound effect. I need to. Oh, thank you for the host. Yeah, I need to go fix that. It's in the repo. I probably just typoed when I was putting the URLs in for the different sounds.
So now we're gonna work in building up jobs. So in GitHub, so if you type jobs and then a colon and just this is kind of where we can run all of our various things. So you can actually run things in parallel on GitHub Actions in one workflow. But since we're just doing one thing, we only need one job here. So if you push enter and like, let's just call it like
YAML, JSON.
Well, the site did build.
The site did build. Okay, so that means that it grabbed the Gatsby's smart enough. Once it builds an image, it saves it, so it didn't have to build them again. Which is the benefit of caching, right? Like.
So we'll push that up onto Netlify later, because we'll need a couple of credentials to say when we push up to Netlify, where are we pushing to?
Mm-hmm.
So that'll be later on. So let's just call this job build, and then
build,
yeah. So this is just the build job. In every single job, you need at least 2 parameters in here. We're going to have a runs on parameter, so it's runs-on.
Runs-on.
And this is going to say like what operating system we're running. So if we wanted to do this on Windows, we could do Windows. If we want to do Mac OS, we could do that. We could do Ubuntu. The one I usually go with is Ubuntu because it's just Linux. It's has the stuff you usually would need.
And that's pretty standard. Like most CIs, it seems like run on Ubuntu.
And that would be Ubuntu-latest.
Okay.
So that's just going to pull down, I think, 2004, which is like the newest stable build of Ubuntu.
Oh, geez. Getting fancy over there.
So next, we're going to be having a field called steps. And these are the individual tasks that we'll do.
Steps.
And this is going to be an array where each item is like a step that we want to find. So the first one you usually want to do on every single repo is check out the branch that we're working with.
Okay.
So each if we want to use a pre-built action, you're going to type uses and then a org/repo syntax. So we're going to say actions/checkout.
Okay. And so this is specifically, we're going to github.com/action/checkout for the code for this action.
Yep. And we want to get the v2 tag.
Like that?
So at v2. Yep.
Okay.
Correct. Yeah. So here we're saying we're going to use this defined version rather than, the master branch, which we could, but dependent, like if you're using someone else's action, it's safer to use a tagged version where it's not going to just pull in random things and it's going to cause issues later on.
Right.
So this will check out the master branch, and now we'll have all the assets on the system.
Okay.
Next, we are going to start caching some stuff.
Okay. And so this is just a new step.
Yep. Well, when I say caching stuff, what I mean is we're going to set up a workflow so at the end of the build, it will cache it. Now, question: do you want to cache the node modules, or is it okay to just cache the Gatsby files?
You're in charge. You tell me.
So I think I'm gonna. So, just a comment about this is, since this could be just as a reference for if people want to do this themselves. I think we're just going to pass for the node modules, but when you do cache node modules, you do not want to cache the specific node modules folder, because certain folders, like sometimes when you build it, on different operating systems, it pulls down different binaries, and you don't want that to be cached. So you would pull from the npm or your own cache that you have on your system.
Mm-hmm.
But let's just cache let's just cache the
like public and cache,
the public and cache folder.
Okay.
So again, this is we're going to use the uses field again.
Okay.
And next we're going to do actions/cache at v2.
Okay. And then Tony brings up a good question in the chat, which is there are there any like memory or storage issues with this? Like, does it end up costing you money or anything if you get a really large cache?
Yep. So the nice thing is for public repos, you have unlimited. I'm pretty sure for caching we have unlimited support. When you actually do workflow runs on public repos, it is completely free. On private repos, you have a set amount of minutes you can get.
Mm-hmm.
So on the free accounts for GitHub, I think you get 2,000 minutes. But something to be aware of is those minutes differ based on the operating system. So like if you're working with Linux, 1 minute is 1 minute. If you're working with Windows, 1 minute is actually 2 build minutes, and if you're working with Mac OS, 1 minute is 10 build minutes.
What? What?
Because they have their own hardware for Windows and Linux, so they can just run their own stuff. But for Mac, they're using a third-party service, so they kind of amp that up for private repos.
I got it.
But again, for public repos, it's completely free. So with these, I'll go search this up. But for the first action, the cache action, we want to give it some parameters.
Okay.
And the way we do this is you're going to give it a with keyword.
Okay.
And now we're going to put in some parameters. So the two parameters we want to use are, if I come back here, path and key. So, yep. So path is going to be what folder we want to cache.
Do I get to pass an array?
No, we can just pass in a. We can pass just a. Actually, I think this is something. If I'm not mistaken, the cache actually does have. I think it does have support for an array. So we could cache based upon different things. We could cache it all in one thing, but I think to be a little bit simpler, we're going to have two cache actions to cache each separately.
Okay.
So here, just type in public, and then for this token, we want to be able to kind of hash what's in the contents of the public directory. We want to kind of get a hash, so this key will be used in subsequent builds. So if it finds something, it can pull it down. It can be able to pull it down.
Sure.
Or if we break the cache, it'll rebuild.
Okay.
So the key, let's give it a like a keyword in the front. So maybe cache dash public dash, and then we're gonna put an expression in here to get a hash of the contents of the directory.
And is this like a bash expression?
Yes, and if you add one more curlies around it. Now, yep, so if we have two on the left side and two on the right, I think that's two. Yep. Inside
do I need the $?
Yes.
Okay.
Inside those two curlies, you can type hash files. And this is a function. So we're going to put parentheses, and inside the parentheses, we're going to put in a string I'm just going to do single quotes of public / and then ***.
Okay.
So this is saying kind of go in, find everything that's in this folder, and hash it. And then this will give you back a hash to kind of map to based upon what's contents are in that folder. What is that going to be?
Okay. And so then I assume I'm just, for the cache folder, I'm doing the same thing.
Yep.
Cache. Whoops. Okay. Spell check. Got it. Cache.
There we go.
All right.
Okay, so we have these. Actually, have we run npm install yet?
Yes.
In here. Well, up in the workflow, I mean.
Oh, no, we haven't.
Yeah. So I'll say let's do this. Let's do this. We could do this next. So we're gonna do run and then a colon. And this could be just a normal shell script. So in this case, we just do npm install.
Okay.
Or npmi.
Nikki, we are writing custom GitHub Actions to cache a site build. So we've got a big old Gatsby site, got a bunch of images. And so far what we've done is we've given it a name. So we're going to cache build assets. We're running that on this branch. And we've got one job called build. We're using Ubuntu to run this, and we're setting up our steps now. So far, we check out the repo, and then we tell it that we're going to cache the public and cache folders, and we're telling it to use a hash of the folder contents as a key. And we just set up npm install, and I think we're about to get to the fun part.
Yep. So, well, we have, we could do just another one of those again of npm run build.
Okay.
And now this is where we want to go. Let's go let's go deploy this up to Netlify so we can get some stuff.
Okay. Whoops.
So
get back over there. Why are you like this? Okay. All right, so I've saved this, and now you just wanted me to do the drop.
Yeah.
Okay, so let me open up, get a Finder window. We'll go to Learn with JSON, and it was called image processing, and we've got a public folder, and that's all we need. So let's drop that sucker in. And this is a big site, so it's going to take a second.
So Jason, a question for you: is the the site ID, is that okay to be like exposed, or should it not be? Like,
the site ID is fine. I mean,
okay.
like, it doesn't really. I maybe wouldn't want it for like a super important site to have, you know, because if somebody was going to hammer the API or something, but like, I don't care for a. What? Is it too big? Created a few seconds ago. Might have just timed out. Still uploading. This site might be too big to just straight upload. Okay, so maybe what we need to do instead is let's use the same Netlify command.
I think the site. Well, if we go into deploy settings, or actually not deploy settings, but the normal settings. If we go to like settings up there, I think we technically have a quote unquote site available to be able to push to.
Yeah, we do. We've got this API ID.
That API ID, we're going to copy it down. And this is actually, we're going to put some quote unquote secrets into GitHub Actions. So if we go back to the Learn with JSON fork of the image processing site.
Here.
Yep. We're going to go to settings.
Okay.
And if you go scroll down on the left, there's going to be a secrets tab. So you click on that. And here is where we can kind of add environment variables that will be encrypted that only will be available at runtime. So
did everything stop working? What's up?
Oh, no.
Oh, so we would need to add code.
Huh, maybe I just broke
that
hackers. Right? That doesn't seem right.
Yep. Okay, so the Netlify CLI takes in two fields, so they could pipe that in there. And then this could be capital letters Netlify site ID with like the underscores between the words.
Okay.
So if you click add secret, that'll add it there. We'll also want to add another one. So do you have a Netlify personal access?
I can get one.
Yeah, so I say grab a access token and then maybe move this off screen, because that actually would be hella dangerous to show.
Yeah, that would not be good. So I'm going into my user settings, and then under applications, I'm creating a new personal access token. And I'm generating this token.
What are you doing, computer? Why?
And so
why are you like this?
I'm going to create a new secret, and you wanted this to be Netlify.
Netlify _auth_token.
Token. Okay, and then I'm going to paste this value in here.
Well, yeah. So pull it off screen, and then we can paste it.
Okay, so now I have. See, it's not visible. Good. That's here.
Okay. So now we
and
have
to show you what I did. Here's
you hackers, you dirty hackers.
Weird. I don't know. It's like maybe the timeouts are causing issues. But yeah, so this I just created this new access token. So if you want to create another one, you just go in here and it's in your user settings up here. But so what we're going to do instead, now we're going to go back. Here's our site.
So the site,
I'm going to cancel this one.
Yeah, so we can cancel that. But the site is technically available, so we should be able to deploy it with our with the CLI. So if we go down back into our workflow,
it's over here somewhere. There it is.
There we are. We're going to add a new one where we are going to, let's give this one a name just so, well, you can actually give each of these a name, so we can just describe like this is the checkout, this is like cache, public cache, etc. But if we add a new one, and this is going to be for getting the Netlify CLI to deploy.
Okay, so this one, give it a name.
Yeah, we'll just give it a name.
Okay, so we'll call it deploy to Netlify.
Yep.
And then
we're going to add a environment. So we will have a run, but we also want env. And then if we add two basic parameters to this field that are the same exact name as we put up on GitHub Actions, like on the UI. So Netlify site ID and Netlify.
Is it like this?
Without the dash up front.
Wait, does that work?
So now we have to say, so these are going to be the environments that are on the runner when it builds. Now we have to tell where to find those various keys.
I was like, this doesn't look like valid YAML to me. I understand now.
So now we are going to do the $ with the two curlies again. Similar how we did
YAML, JSON.
This is going to be the rest of my life, isn't it?
So if we do the $ with the two curlies, this is what GitHub is just an expression. Now, if we do secrets dot, that exact statement. So,
okay, and then same thing down here. Secrets, Netlify auth token.
Yep.
You hackers, you dirty hackers.
That is what we called it, right? Auth token and site ID. Yes.
Yep. And these are the two environments that Netlify CLI will look for when you do a deploy.
Got it. Okay.
So now we want to do a run, and we are going to do npx netlify-cli deploy, and we're going to have two flags of one is --dir, and set that to be public. At least on mine, I have an equal sign between during public. I'm not sure.
I can never remember.
Yeah. And then --prod. So this means when it actually hits Netlify, actually deploy it to production.
Mm-hmm.
And that should be it.
Okay. Let's give this thing a shot. So I'm going to let's take a look at what we've built. So we added this GitHub Actions folder. So I'm going to add GitHub, right? So now we've got our build.yaml. So I'm going to git commit. We'll call this a chore. Add GitHub Actions for deployment. Okay. And then let's push. All right. So then if I go back out here, I think I've already got it open. I don't. So just open it.
Okay. So if we go to the Actions tab up, so we can see now that the file is here. If we go on the Actions tab, you can see that we have a new action that has, a new workflow that has been triggered. So
and it's like already running. Look at that.
It's triggered. So this is this front page will show like if there's any artifacts, any various things. But here we can see now each step will start triggering. So Yeah, this checkout may take a little bit because it's haven't posted up.
Cache not found.
The cache wasn't found. So if you look, and it's going to run npm I and npm run build, you can actually see that there was some new kind of steps that are actually added into here. That post run actions slash cache. What that means is after like everything's done and like said and done, it will actually save that into the cache. And this is actually something any action can do. You can basically set up a thing to do a post like after the workflow is kind of done. You can set up some post steps or post commands to run afterwards. But currently it's going through npm and
can we I want to look at this actually because I'm kind of curious how this stuff works. So let's go look at github.com/actions checkout.
Yep.
And so this is what we just loaded, right? Is actions checkout. And it's going to be here in this workflows folder.
So this actually is the action. So this is the action itself. If you go into source,
into source.
Yep. It's just a bunch of TypeScript. Now, so the initial version of the checkout action was kind of internal, but now they've just open sourced this as well as the cache action.
Okay.
So if you want to just look at the source code, it's just here.
Oh, it does so much. Okay. So we could have, if we wanted to, we could have written this as it looks like a TypeScript file.
Yeah. So if you saw in the root of this project, there was a dist folder. By default, GitHub Actions doesn't install node modules and all that stuff for actions for you. So it has to compile this stuff down to JavaScript. As soon as it hits the JavaScript layer, it can run that for you.
That clicking that file was a mistake. Oh god. Oh no. Okay, maybe we'll just go over here.
So I'm looking in the comments. So Nikki pushed a question. Does workflow get canceled if another commit is made that triggers that same workflow? So no, it will just keep adding more work. Like it will add a new workflow run once it goes so if we do another push right now, it would technically start a new trigger, and since we haven't cached the stuff, it would have to go through a full build again.
But we do have a cancel button here, so like if you knew that you had done that, you could just come in and
you could
axe this one.
Correct.
Cool. And what's really interesting about this too is we named this, right? So we can choose what gets communicated over here. Because if we look up at the top here, we said cache built assets. So, we could have said something, we could be way more descriptive. And then down here,
we have a jobs build up top. We have their jobs build.
We could have named that whatever we wanted.
Yep. Now, something that is useful. So here we just have one job.
Mm-hmm.
But the nice thing is you can actually run jobs in parallel. So like, for instance, on my site, I do some work where I build my Open Graph images. So like the images that appear on Twitter or any other social platform, I build those images in parallel to when my site builds. So I don't need it to be done sequentially. I can actually do them in parallel, merge those two assets together, and then deploy everything up. So if it's nice that you can do multiple things at the same time. If there are things that are separate and they don't need to depend on one another, they can all run at the same time. And then you can have jobs that depend on those various tasks to finish to trigger.
Nice. This built so much faster than I expected it to.
Okay, so 169 seconds. That's the number we're going to try to see if we can.
And theoretically, this site is almost entirely image processing. There are 18 seconds of non-image processing time in this build. So if the cache works, we should see, probably a 75% reduction in build time here.
Yeah, that's just a couple files.
Mhm.
2642.
Yeah, exactly.
And the nice thing that Netlify does as well is they also do this kind of hashing for you. So
Mhm.
if I technically don't change any files, it would diff based on the CDN. And if there's no files changed, it won't do anything. It'll just say, "Yep, we're good."
And we could even like push an empty commit to prove that.
Yep.
CDN is requesting 480 files. Okay, so apparently we got some of the way there with our first
It was
deploy.
a partial. Yeah, is it partial deploy? Yeah. So, Ecomath in the chat was commenting, I wonder why this looks like Azure DevOps. This is actually built on the same infrastructure that Azure DevOps is built, which is another CI/CD provider.
And like that makes sense because like it would be really odd for Microsoft to purchase GitHub and then continue like maintain two completely separate infrastructures. Like it would make sense for those two to start growing together, and hopefully they grow toward like the GitHub side of the UX flow, because like GitHub has always been very good at making things developer friendly, and like Azure has been very good at providing services, but it hasn't always been as easy to onboard. And so what I think is interesting is like you can see a really earnest effort from the Microsoft team to close that gap. And I've really liked seeing the way that their team is like actively seeking out and like responding to feedback, as opposed to being like, well, our way is fine, you just have to learn it. So that it is kind of cool to see.
Yeah, something that's interesting, I feel that on the flip side is like the Azure DevOps, I kind of like a little bit of how they do their side, where it's a little bit more GUI based, where here, like if we go back to VS Code, we wrote a bunch of YAML. If we had a incorrect tab or space somewhere, it would throw everything off.
Yeah.
Because YAML isn't the best format. It works, but it can be very finicky. Something that actually back when GitHub Actions was in a beta back in the day, it had like a GUI interface where you dragged actions onto like a graph based format.
Oh, interesting.
And actually something actually look here, that's if you actually read right here the two actions, all we're doing to compress this is just running tar to take those directories and literally compress them up.
Side note, I feel like tarballs are one of the best named pieces of like CLI software, because when I create a tarball, I immediately get a visual of what I've just done. Like I took all this stuff and I just made it into a pile, and now I have my tarball, right? I don't know. That joke was funnier to me, but
so now let's go over to Netlify and see. So supposedly that it was deployed. So if we go over to Netlify,
yes,
we
should be able to open this. And here we go. There's our tons and tons and tons of images, with each one having a full size site.
Yep.
Nice. Yeah, it works.
So
I just realized that I pulled all bare images.
This is the Panda site.
Yeah. Oh, this is like weird. So I thought this was all Unsplash, but actually a lot of these are my photos. Like I took all of these when I was in Thailand. I found out, so this is kind of wild. I probably shouldn't say this on stream, but lighting one of these things in Thailand now is like a capital offense. So every single time, this is for a party that happens every year, where they like the whole city lights off these lanterns, and you can kind of see, this is not a great photo, but like each one of these is one of those lanterns. So this is effectively the largest party in the year where everybody gets together and just does crime together.
This feels kind of like the United States with the 4th of July. Like there's just, I think there was fireworks going off till like 11 or 12 on the 4th this year here.
Ugh, that's a little rough.
And some of the family went to sleep around like 9:30ish, and guess what? The neighbors literally right next door decided, let's throw some fireworks off.
Yeah, we've been getting like last night, somebody lit off one firework at like 10 p.m.
Just a single firework?
Just the one. It was like, oh, we forgot to light this one. Let's go do it real quick.
Okay.
Okay, but so this worked, right? Like this did what we wanted. So let's add another image maybe? Yeah, let's add another image, I think. Yeah. Let's see if I can figure out how this site works. So in the source, I forgot how I did this. I think I just dropped all of the images in here. Yeah, so all of these are images. So let's find an image. We'll go to Unsplash. And since you're on here, we're definitely using a corgi. And
I have to get a new corgi.
Yeah, I can't use the same corgi I always use. Let's see. There's some good ones. Good corgis going on out here. Oh, that's the one. That's the corgi.
Yeah, there we go.
Look at those.
Corgi.
All right.
Corgi with friend.
So here is another big old image. This one's actually not that bad. 438 kilobytes.
Yep. So now if we go back to that repo, we should see there's a new file. So if we commit that, this should trigger another build, and it should pull down that cache that we made previously.
Okay, so we're going to push.
Yep.
And now when I go back to GitHub, what I'm looking for... What?
Yeah?
The chat's frozen?
Oh yeah, in the overlay.
All right, let me refresh it. Stream Blitz, where are you at? Let's just refresh this page.
Mm-hmm.
I think something went weird with my chat because I feel like it was fine, and then it like really wasn't. Did you not? Oh, that's the wrong one anyways. Oh, this is the one that I need to refresh. There we go. Okay. Should be working again.
Throw some corgis in the chat. Just test this.
All right, so let's look at actions. Here's our new corgi image. It is building. Let's look at the build job. And so it should be looking for a cache now.
Yep, so you see it's taken a little bit longer for this because it actually can now pull down that cache.
Yeah.
Okay, there we go.
This toggle is confusing to me. It like sort of works sometimes.
It displays content after like it partially shows it as it's going. It's not like a full real-time display.
There it is. Here we go. Cache restored.
Okay, so you can see cache restored, and
oh, it did say the cache size was what? Or I guess it would be the public one would be the big one. So the cache size is 233 megabytes.
Yep.
Because this site, so that makes sense because this site is almost entirely images. So there wouldn't be a lot of like the .cache folder because that's where it keeps like data relationships and stuff that we're not using.
Yep. Okay. So it's now going on NPM, and then it's just going to go through that process all over again. But hopefully when it hits the npm run build, it should be somewhat faster.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so npm install. So caching the node modules, you made it sound like that's kind of a whole different thing.
It's
here we go. Look at it.
So you can we can cache node modules, but it's the thing that you don't want to cache node modules directly because if you're running this on multiple platforms, you may cause issues where maybe you build like the sharp for Linux, and then it brings that file over to Windows, it's probably going to throw up. So that's a lot faster.
Way faster. And this should actually go way faster too, because most of the images will be identical. So the hash will eliminate a lot of the upload.
So 150 seconds to build all those images versus now 2 to add just one more.
Mm-hmm. So that went like just about 6 times faster, a little under. And so, no, we only have to upload 13 files because again, the image, the reason it's 13 files and not 1 is that for the thumbnails, we're getting 3 different resolutions. And for the full-sized image, the fluid image, that's the remainder of those resolutions. So it generates like small to big so that we can do the adaptive images. That's what Gatsby Image uses. Mm-hmm. So 13 files as opposed to the 2,600 that were there. And this is this part's the Netlify CLI. This part is because we used Gatsby with a warm cache, which this is what inspired me to build the Netlify plugin Gatsby Cache. I think this is kind of the whole impetus behind Gatsby Cloud, the company, is like, how do we make sure that Gatsby runs like it does when you're developing locally, when you build fresh? And it basically comes down to keep the cache warm. Like that's 99% of the battle.
Yeah, but we can see that like even though it did take a little bit more time to like pull that cache down in subsequent runs.
But look at this. It's not saving the cache, even though some things would have changed.
So that's cache. Right? That's cache. Cache hit. Oh, I'm not sure if our that hash that we had afterwards is working.
Oh yeah, it doesn't look like it is.
Yeah. But in other instances, like if you're working with something like if you're caching node modules, you could use like the the packages -lock.json file. You can like use those kinds of files to get that hash.
Does it give us an error when we try to do that? Run actions cache.
So we pass those.
No, we just straight broke it. Like something's not right. Oh, I know why. We're trying to hash files that don't exist yet.
That be it?
The public folder doesn't exist until after the build.
Ooh.
So would we need to flip the order? So that wouldn't make sense.
Oh no.
Tony, there is a so the way that Netlify builds work is that when so each build is atomic, meaning that like when we go and look at the deploy log, we'll see that like each one of these builds that we've done is like a separate build, right? And so we can see here that like 480 files were uploaded. But because we don't want you to have to wait for like the same files to be uploaded, we'll just copy all the ones that didn't change from last time. So we do like a hash-based diff on the file contents to make sure that only new files get brought over. And that's what we see in the GitHub CLI here.
I think Tony's asking specifically on GitHub's side.
Right. So that's what we're seeing here when we run the Netlify CLI. Is it hashes all the files and then checks to see whether any of them changed.
So that's at least on the Netlify side. On the whole GitHub Actions workflow portion, I don't believe their builds are atomic. So you have to just be careful that you don't just throw commits upon commits all at the same time. Which with something like if you're doing something here like a site, it should be all right, because like if you're maybe working on a site for like maybe your team's like marketing site, you probably aren't pushing, like most of the people probably aren't pushing all to master at the same time. You're probably pushing it through PRs and then merging them in. So that shouldn't be really an issue.
Yeah. So one potential issue here is like, I think on our next build, we're going to be missing the images for this because they didn't get cached.
Yeah.
So let's figure out how we can do this, because I think like let's just throw another one in here. And I kind of just want to test this to see if it's going to be an issue for us. Where's this one? Okay, and then
let me go through dig through some docs.
okay, so what we need to figure out is what information do we have that we can hash, because I'm pretty sure, like if I was going to place bets, my bet is that this folder doesn't exist. So when it runs hash files, it just finds nothing, and so it no ops and returns an empty string. So
actually, can you just out of a whim, can you put some spaces between right there?
like here?
Yeah. At least in the docs. Like, I don't know if this is a
I mean, I'll try anything. Let's give it a shot. Let's see. Git commit.
Stop. You see that word hash files?
Yeah.
Capitalize the F.
Ha. Yes. Okay.
There we go.
I'm still curious how it would hash it without
well, if I think if that function to return, I think it would just be the cache public dash with nothing else. So like the expression would return an empty string, and then we would just have the cache public dash and cache dash without anything.
Okay, so let's push that up. And then what I will do is let's go to our actions. Yeah. I'm going to skip this one.
Yep, so we can cancel that. So if you go into the build and then click cancel workflow.
Did I do it?
It takes like a couple seconds, but it should just cancel. So if we go back to actions,
then this is the one that should be running. So we can watch this one. And let's see what happens.
So it's going to pull down our commit.
Still doesn't.
Well, so those are the keys that we had previously, because it kind of does a thing of like, hey, do you have any cache? So do you have any caches to restore from? And it does like a glob rather than a full cat.
I understand. So that what I was thinking is that key had to get created at the beginning, because that's where it runs in the steps. But what you're saying is that that is basically treated like a callback. Like when it creates the cache, it's going to run. Okay, I understand. That makes more sense. So what we should see is in here in the post run, that's when we'll see it generate that key.
Yeah, it should be. Yep.
Got it. Okay.
Well, actually, scroll up to the top, and we can actually possibly look at it inside. In those actions, if you click on the run actions, if you click on the first line of those, it might show us the details.
So it still shows nothing there, but I think we'll see once we get down here. Yeah, and this should happen nice and fast, hopefully. I don't think this got to the build part.
There we are. So I think it should have built 2 images if we go look in there.
It built
images 18.
Yep. Yeah, so that would be the 2 new images. Well, at least, okay, so that's good to know. So Gatsby's smart enough to rebuild the images that it didn't find. I was worried that it was going to cache something that was like, we've got all the images, and then it just wouldn't do those. But that's cool. So yeah, we're in good shape here. Hashing files. So Netlify is doing its thing. 13 files. Hopefully that's for 2 new images. That's a little concerning. Maybe it's fine.
Well, because Netlify already had that one image.
Oh, right.
So it already Netlify kind of already has its cache of the build artifacts.
Got it. Okay. Yep. Did you try camel casing your YAML? I'm not. No, we're not doing YAML camels. Camel YAML. Here we go. Caching. Show me what you got. Still says not saving cache. Still says not saving cache.
And this is just kind of clean stuff up there.
Cool.
That's fine.
Anything else you want to try? I think I saw B Dougie in the chat. I don't know if he's looking at the screen like, yo, I know exactly what you're doing wrong. Better fix this. Yeah, so I think let's make sure that the builds are working, because the biggest concern would be if we're missing pieces. Okay, so those load the way we expect. Full size image loads. Are you supposed to eat that?
Is that in the foreground or the background?
The no, he's eating those berries. It's not allowed. Those are probably poisonous. Oh man, that was probably a messy day for that dog's owner. Okay, so it's at the very least, it is the biggest part is working. The downside is that if this was a photo sharing site, when we get another 500 images down the line, we're still going to be processing those 500 images. So if we want to, did I save the chat? Yeah, everything's saved. So we're saved here. We're up to date. So
yeah. And this is kind of a little finicky.
I don't need to do a disk glob?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Yeah, and this is where it's finicky, because other things that you can cache, other things that they expect people to cache by default are things like npm node modules, stuff from Maven or Gradle,
not
modules,
generated stuff,
NuGet,
basically
stuff that has a lock file of some kind. That's easy. That's easy because as soon as that file changes, then you can just pass it's a single file.
Yeah. This has got me thinking about how you could do this, because it would be one thing if this was just static files, right? So for this particular site, we could do something like grab the source folder and hash it and use that as our key. But most Gatsby sites are not just using the source folder. They're also pulling in from an API, from whatever. So we wouldn't be that would give you false caches. But is there a step where we can add or inject stuff? I feel that would, yeah, that was my thought too, Eco, but apparently that's not necessary. So I maybe we give it a shot like that. I would be really surprised if we have to do that one. Maybe we try this. Let's just see what happens. Why not, right?
Yeah. So another thing that I was looking previously, I think it was either Tony or Eco asked previously, hey, also about sizes of caches. A repo can have a cache of up to 5 gigabytes. So that's kind of the limit. And once you hit that, once you go over that, it would just kind of I think delete the least recently used cache, or if a cache is not accessed within a week it'll also be kind of cleared out.
Okay, so there are the objects. Those are doing what we want.
Yeah.
All right. Get me something. The thing that concerns me the most is that it's like it's dropping that expression entirely from the key generation, which makes me worry that it's like something that we're doing is causing GitHub to ignore it. Maybe, okay, so maybe we just go to let's go to the phones. GitHub hash files actions.
Yeah.
Or wait, there was a GitHub
There's
community.
the hash multiple. It's from multiple patterns.
Just go straight to, this is where I was before. So it's hash files. The path is relative to the GitHub workspace, which is what whatever we cloned into.
That's our repo by default.
Matches any package lock.
Is insensitive.
So like, is there a way to like, what if we just use the commit and just always take the most recent cache and drop it in?
So use a
the actual commit hash. So every time you commit, it'll always just pull the most recent. Like that's what I do in the Netlify build plugin.
Yeah, let's try that out.
Okay. How do I get that?
Let me get that. Let me go get that for you. So there is a specific there's a context that GitHub provides you that I go find.
Okay. And you are absolutely correct, Nikki. That is what all of my CI debugging commits look like.
Okay. So replace hash files in both of those instances with github.sha.
Like that?
Yep.
All right, here we go. This is going to be the one. All right. It's going to have, I forgot that there was a CI prefix for this. And I got to figure out why some of my sound effects aren't working. It's like, this will work, should definitely work. That's also ironic that that's the one that doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
Don't get it. Wait, is it like over here? No, I don't know. All right, so we have done the thing. We're in here. All right, I think I need a adult supervision here.
Why is it working for some but not others?
I must have pooched something. I don't know what it was. All right, so now we've got the keys are going to be unique every time. So what should happen, because we're basically saying like every build is going to update the cache in some way, otherwise you wouldn't be building. Then we're just hopefully, I don't know how GitHub manages this in the background, but theoretically speaking, they're just going to drop the old cache and replace it with a new one. So that we will always have the most recent build cache stored.
Yeah. Oh, and something that we'll need. Let's add one more thing. Well, actually, we'll add the second thing in just so it will know how to like glob downward.
Okay.
So we'll let this build in the background. If you open up our workflow file again.
Okay.
Add a third parameter to both of these called restore keys.
Like that?
with a dash in the middle. A restore case with a lowercase k. Yep. And then put a. Give me 1 second. Um, 1 second. If you just put a bar and then a new line, so like a
a bar.
Yeah, the
that not helpful VS Code to italicize that. That makes it really confusing looking. Okay.
And then new line, enter, and type are the suffix, the prefix of these caches. So like cache dash public dash.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's kind of just saying like this is like a thing that if it can't find the full thing, it will kind of start working downward. So we'll save this and commit it. Let's just check how the what's going here.
Run queries. Should be done here in a second. Now it did cache not found for input keys.
So since we're getting like a newer, like a fuller cache.
Oh no.
It may be rebuilding from scratch.
It definitely is rebuilding from scratch. So that doesn't do what we want. And I bet we can't find like the previous commit to
actually
drop that back in there.
No, this will be all right, because if we keep this, it's saying the cache with the most recent creation date will be used. So it will, when it comes in here, it'll say, hey, is there any commits that have a cache dash public dash prefix? And then by the time we do the second one, it was like, yeah, we found one, and then we'll find some.
So this gets used as a prefix. It's not like it doesn't have to be an exact match for this.
Yeah, it's going to be a prefix.
Okay.
And then it will find the one with the most recent creation date. So that's what we want.
Okay. So then this ran. I'm actually kind of blown away by how much power these GitHub Actions boxes have.
It's actually quite impressive. So
yeah, like there's a lot of compute resources being put into these.
These are if anyone works with Azure, it is a standard DS2 virtual machine. Okay. What that means in reality is you have a 2-core CPU, 7 gigs of RAM, and a 14 gigabyte SSD.
That is a lot.
It's a pretty beefy VM that you get access for free.
That's wild. Okay, so this is almost done. While we're waiting for that, we can go out here and look at the other one, which I believe is running in parallel. It is. So let's see. Come on, do what I want.
It's sitting around, so I think it may have found that cache. Maybe.
Now what I want to see though, it hasn't saved the previous hashed one, so damn it. Okay, so we'll have to do one more of these. While we wait for these to build, then let's get one more.
Yeah, so maybe can't cancel that. The one that was.
I can do that. Yeah, I'll cancel this one. Okay. That one got built, so now there should be a cache available. And I'm gonna add one more corgi. Let's add this one, because that's how I feel about caches arguing with us today. Let's see. Gloomy Corgo. I just realized that we have used like all of this photographer's work. Alvin Nee. Great, top notch corgi photography coming out of Alvin. Let's see, commit. Okay, so now we'll push, and what we should see is when we go back to our actions, we should see a new corgi. We'll go into the build, and fingers crossed, we should see the cache get pulled that matches the hash and not just the prefix with no hash.
Yep.
Come on. Oh boy, this is our last chance too. If this doesn't work, we got to call it. But I believe in us.
Oh,
Was it a miss?
no.
Cache.
So that's there's a cache. So if you try opening up the, so I think
So
yeah, so
our
there's
cache.
the-
So this is our
Oh.
new one.
Yep.
We don't need
There
to
was-
specify that as a blob or something, or a glob.
Yeah, well, that it kind of is a glob. It's saying like if any of them start with that, then it will go grab it, grab the newest one.
Okay, so I want to look at this one that worked, and so this one had
So it's the hash of that. It was 54 BDD0.
right. So this one,
Yeah. So
Right.
let's go. If
But
we go
then
into the
when
post run,
yeah,
um,
cache
that will
save.
save a file. I don't know if it says the file name, but
But so
so
it
it
should have
does save-
saved this cache.
yeah, it does save a cache. So now if we go back to our new run,
In our new run in the build,
we technically should only see one.
cache restored from key.
Yeah. So if we go to npm run build, we should only see about like 9 new images, rather than like 27 or. I don't remember.
27. So I think it pulled the most recent like actual cache instead of the cache with a hash. Cache hash. So we can do some digging on this and figure out what happened. And I think we may have messed ourselves up by creating an exact match, which might be an issue with the restore keys in and of themselves. Unfortunately, we are out of time, but what we can do is we can try. Okay, so I'm going to try one more thing because I really, really want this to work. Let's do a V2. And we don't have time to build twice though. Yeah.
Darn.
Okay. So here's what we're going to try. We'll do this off screen and we'll commit the results. But my theory is that because we won't have a bare cache with this name, they'll all be shod. That might trigger the fallback correctly, as opposed to what we were doing before, was we were actually hitting an exact match.
Yeah. Well, as they say, cache invalidation is one of the hardest things in computer science.
Oh my goodness.
This is why.
Cache hash invalidation. So I'm going to push that. And with that, I think it's time for us to call it. So Benjamin, thank you so much for coming on the show today. This was super fun. I feel like we learned quite a bit. And GitHub Actions really are like, they feel like a Swiss Army knife. Like you can do a lot with them. So if somebody wants to learn more, where would you send them?
Yeah, so if you go to docs.github.com, which this is actually fairly new for GitHub, but if you click on that Actions tab on the left, this will give you a huge amount of documentation about GitHub, about GitHub Actions. And if you read on the left side, or at least up in front, like there's stuff about talking about workflows. It will have stuff if you're working with specific languages, if you are coming from a platform like Travis or Circle CI, if you're coming from another CI vendor, I'll talk about that. It kind of goes through all these things. If you want to build your own action,
Nice.
if you actually don't want to use their servers and you want to use your own servers, you can actually do that, because that they're you can run
self-hosted.
their runner.
Self-hosted. Yeah. Very cool. And if people want to keep up with you, where should they go?
Yeah, so if you go to my Twitter, LannonBR, or LannonBR.com, those are kind of my two main locations. Really, LannonBR almost everywhere on the internet. But yeah.
Nice. Well, thank you again. And another shout out to White Coat Captioning for doing the live captions today. I'm so happy that we're able to make this show a little more accessible for everybody. And that is made possible by our sponsors. We've got Sanity, Netlify, Auth0, and Fauna all kicking in to make this more accessible. And thank you, chat, for burying us in boops. That is always a great time. With that, I think we're good. So chat, stay tuned. We're going to raid. Ben, thank you so much for coming on.
You're welcome.
We'll see you next time.